A great example of this is in Luke 15. It's a parable widely known as the parable of the prodigal son. Anybody heard that parable before? Okay, a lot of us have. In this parable, it begins actually, Jesus says it's a parable of two sons. And the parable is about two sons that are completely lost and alienated from a relationship of grace with their father. Now, the younger brother comes to his father, basically says, I wish you were dead. I want you to give me the money that's coming to me when you die, because I want to take that money and I want to go out and do whatever I want. So the father gives it to him, takes it. He goes and squanders all of his money, all of his inheritance on immoral living. He's chosen the path of, let's say, irreligion. Just like the former Galatians were. They were pagans. They were nowhere near God. They didn't care anything about Him. And then in the story, we've got the older brother that comes in at the end, and we see he stayed home. He obeyed the father. He wanted to do everything he could to obey the father's rules, not out of love and joy for the father, not because he had a relationship with the father. He wanted to obey all of these things so that the father would give him whatever he wants, so that his worth and his fulfillment would come through his works. What we see is their exterior actions are very different, right? Younger brother goes out and has sex with a bunch of people, gets wasted. Older brother stays home and is very obedient. But what we see through what Jesus teaches is that their hearts are exactly the same. They weren't looking to the Father and His grace to give them worth and fulfillment. They were both looking to their works. Younger brother tried to do it this way. Older brother tried to do it this way by staying home and being good. And what's crazy is at the end of this parable Jesus tells, the younger brother actually ends up going into the party because he repents and he comes to the Father and trusts that the only way I can come home, the only way I can have the worth and fulfillment I long for and I need is through just receiving it from the Father by grace. And the older brother doesn't go into the party because he essentially says, if I can't earn it, I don't want it. The father comes out and just entreats he just pleads with the older brother. He says, you didn't have to do all this stuff. Everything I've got is yours. Just come in. And it's the older brother who was very good and moral, stayed outside, never came in. Friends, there are two ways to be alienated from God. The former Galatians were the rebellious younger brother, and then the now Galatians who are being tempted to obey the law, to find their acceptance and worth and fulfillment, they're just like the older brother. And here's why this really matters. That's why Paul says, I'm afraid. Because they literally started doing everything they could to make themselves acceptable to God through obeying the law. Even that's why he says you're observing days and months and seasons and years. He's talking about in the Jewish law, in the Old Testament law, there were certain days and festivals and years that you would have to celebrate as a part of the law. And Paul's saying, you're looking to the whole law to be justified before God. You're even observing all of these days and festivals that have nothing to do with you, that don't save you. It's like, and that's why he says, I'm afraid I may have labored over you in vain. He's saying, I'm afraid that all this gospel preaching and teaching I've done to you, you're just throwing it away, and you're trying to achieve your own acceptance before God through the law. He's saying, and you're doing that, you're just returning to idolatry. Because they had turned the law into an idol. Friends, good things can be idols. The law of God is good. There's nothing bad about the law. The law is perfect, good. It's what God has revealed to us. It's how we know what is right. But they turned it into something or some way to achieve worth and fulfillment themselves. Keller continues, he says, if anything, the idolatry and slavery of religion, meaning I earn my salvation, it's more dangerous than the idolatry and slavery of irreligion. He's saying it's more dangerous to be the older brother in the parable in Luke 15 than it is the younger. How can he say that? He says, because it's less obvious. When you're the older brother, when you're obeying the law to earn your salvation, essentially, he said, you don't even realize you're far from God. You think, well, I must have a relationship with God. I'm doing everything that He says. He's saying it's more dangerous to be an older brother because they're laboring under the delusion that God accepts them by what they do. Said it's less dangerous to be the younger brother because the younger brother knows, I don't know God. Friends, it's radically dangerous to think that through your obedience, God will be pleased with you. Before salvation, after salvation, doesn't matter. God is not pleased with you according to your obedience. God is pleased with you according to Jesus' obedience in your place.